Nice to meet you, human. I don't have a spirit animal because I am the spirit animal. Stay back or you will not like what happens next. You never know what we might be up against. This should keep us safe. Humans think I'm indifferent, but I just don't have any thoughts left to give.
She really says that. She really says that. I don't feel comfortable enough to say it. What I will say is kind of explain what's going on there. So it's a community celebration event. She might not have any Fox to give, but you can get it even if she's not giving them. Win your games in SMITE. Just play your games in SMITE with some friends. You can go ahead. There's a nice little bar that you unlock things. And basically, as a team, as we all play more SMITE, we can unlock more things, skins included. So it's certainly a lot of fun. I can't believe they had her say that, man.
I believe it entirely. Of course, it's Tina that makes these voice lines. Can you really disbelieve Tina would do that? I don't.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. Right now, I can certainly believe that Out Cold are able to take the first game of the contest. Today, we've got more European action. It's going to be Hyve versus Rival. We'll see how these teams go head-to-head. Rival up on top, undefeated. And the Hyve Central, Hyve, they are 1-4. This could be their moment to turn things to 2-4. Wouldn't change the standings, but it would look pretty nice. Team Rival, on the other hand, I don't think they want to lose. That's my hard-hitting analysis.
They only dropped one game thus far in their 5-0 streak, so they're looking very clean. And up against Hyve Central, on paper, you expect the black and purple to really come out with a victory today. But Hyve Central, they need to come out kind of the same way that MV3 did in the last set in game number 1, when they come out with the early shenanigans and try to take that early game lead.
That's what you're looking for here, is kind of find those moments of opportunity. Early game is consistently the moment. We'll see if that's where the game goes. Picks and bans for game number 1 coming at you just like that. Rival will have the first selection and, of course, the first ban. So with that in mind, they'll be looking towards Hyve. No Thor. Players have been talking a lot about Thor lately, Toli. My take is the ultimate certainly adds some late game damage, but for the majority of the early and the mid game, he's relatively the same. The big difference between Thor after his changes is clear speed. His ability to make it throughout the jungle has been boosted way up.
The Berserker Barrage, a much shorter cooldown now than it was before, and the team fighting presence of that Anvil of Dawn with the lightning being able to spread around is helpful for the team fights, and the clear speed definitely is a big deal, not only in the jungle, but also the solo lane. A couple of SPL players bringing that in the mix.
For me, it's about the realism. I think that you know, let's pretend you're Thor.
Sure.
I think that you can do one spin. But if you were to be asked to, if I asked you to spin 3 times, or whatever old Berserker Barrage, 3 to 4 times, I just don't think you could do it.
No, definitely not. So it was a larger cooldown by like maybe 6 seconds or so. So that's the difference between old Thor of Season 5 versus the new Thor of Season 6.
Absolutely, Anatoly.
Not going that route. I sell you bait.
Ban's done. The Chernobog is here. Ban's over. We've got no Thor, no Thoth, and no Zhang Kui across the way. No Horus, no Set, and no Isis. So pretty standard bans here. It's interesting to see the Thoth guy rise up all the way to ban territory. And it's interesting to see Chernobog number 1 pick territory. But I have recently been really looking at these console teams and Rival specifically. They love this Chernobog pick, and totally may or may not have the numbers to back it up. But what I see out of Rival a lot is they pick the Chernobog because you never have numbers advantage. They go for buff defense a lot. Rival will respond to enemies' aggression with, well, just Chernobog ult, and then I have more players than you. They seem to go to that strategy an awful lot.
Living Nightmare is pretty good when you're considering the action might be in the solo lane when you have Rapio and the jungle predators in that solo lane from Rival. Might be leaning a little bit extra on this blue buff today.
First round of the draft is done. Chernobog, Merlin, and Khepri. Muzen, Cobb, Kumba, and Ares. Totally have done a little bit of breakdown here, so the floor is yours. You've got 3 picks on either side. Talk to me.
I'm liking this Khepri pick defensively because of how squishy the backline is. Chernobog and Merlin. Merlin not the safest in self-peel. Chernobog can self-peel for himself pretty well, so it's about protecting this Merlin. Whereas on the other side, Hyve Central are looking for the mid-clear with the Kumbhakarna, with also the Muzen. That's a lot of control and damage there, and the Ares to follow suit with that. The Cripple is a great way of shutting down this Khepri abduct. It's up to Rival now to figure out a way towards dealing with that kind of Guardian pressure. And I'm looking for ways of crowd controlling the Ares. A lot of channeling abilities between the Flames and the Chains. Something like a Hunbats maybe for Rapio, or even a Thor wouldn't be too bad.
I was just going to ask, is Hunbats the direction you want to go? Because the Ares can be pretty problematic. Chernobog also gets eaten up by the Ares.
Yeah.
A lot of times players will make these plays in mind thinking of the dash, but chained up can't do it. Agni, the choice for Hyve Central here. A nice look. I think a character that, frankly, doesn't get enough play, in my opinion. I think Agni's kind of always good. Rival answers back with the Guan Yu.
A little bit of sustain, so more defensive measures alongside the Khepri, but that cavalry charge is a good way towards diving a Muzen that doesn't have a jump or a dash of getting away. And with an Agni now, the only way you really keep a Muzen alive is with a Giannis portal to get him away from the Guan Yu, so that option is eliminated, unless they still lock in the Giannis with an Agni, which I don't expect to happen. But
the Giannis Jungle?
Hyve, I was going to say they might go for the Ao Kuang because Rival alluded towards banning away those executes.
Yep. You see the Achilles and the Thanatos. The only execute available is going to be that Ao Kuang. Hive Mind snatch it up, and they have the answer. Execute obviously goes to Khepri ult, and that's the tech they're looking for. The Agni, though, I like Agni because Agni operates similar to Ganesh, where you can play in the middle of the team fight. You can be aggressive with your stun or save your homies. Which one will we see, and which one will take the game? We'll find out. Let's jump to the game.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Anatoly. It's Finch and Melissa. I will hunt you down. Posada standing right here beside as we move into Rival versus Hyve Central. And Taco, on paper, this feels like a bit of a mismatch. Rival, one of the top teams, really just on console in general, but especially here in Xbox EU. Hyve Central have their work cut out for them.
It's definitely not going to be an easy one, but how many times have we seen the David versus Goliath ringer where David actually sometimes ends up winning? And
Sure.
I think that Rival are usually a consistent enough team to where I wouldn't really anticipate mistakes. Tiger right now might have made a mistake looking for that invade. Rotations could be through from 60-meter fly, and he is just cooking this Kumbhakarna. But Tiger still managing to wiggle on out of there for the moment.
Tiger has clung to life here for now, but he's just too far away from safety. His life is forfeit at this point. First blood for Team Rival. And remember, Team Rival used to be the one that you ranked yourself up against. Used to have a Porsche Coast here on this team, but Davey has stepped in. They used to have Domson. They are now back to Fly. So this is that same four-man roster, minus the Porsche Coast, that ran it in Season 5, that have been monsters here in Season 6 as well. This is, I think, only second to Hype Unit in my mind in terms of a console roster.
Trust me, I'm right there with you, Finch. It's an uphill battle, without a doubt, for Hyve Central. And I was going to say probably one of the best features they could look for would just be trying to establish some pressure in that early game. But when Tiger's taking a level 1 spill over in duo, it's going to be tough, I think, for Hyve to at least look towards that direction for where they want to step it up. I think that now this adds a little bit more pressure onto Waldrom, possibly even Gnome there, being some of the more veteran players on this Hyve Central roster.
But it is good to see at the very least that we've got these hunters left alone in the long lane, though they are playing physical hunters. Hold that thought, the Predator's in some trouble. He's been chained as well, and that will spell another kill. Gnome gets Hyve Central on the board, and so far keeping pace with Team Rival.
Gnome might not have kept the chain damage going, but Shackle still applies the cripple, and with it, Predator is going to be unable to escape through that Guan Yu dash. I really like the early pressure as well from Genesis, considering that it was Tiger who died in duo, so I think that by shifting the attention now to the opposite side of the map could really give Hotaru a little bit more free time to farm again.
And if you're, Rival, you probably don't expect the Ao Kuang to be this aggressive that early, as they're just trying to defend their own blue buff, our Hyve Central. But the root lands, Gnome takes a little bit of extra damage for the trouble, but no harm, no foul. But sort of the point I was making is that you don't always expect out Kuangs to be this active this early, especially when they're lining up against a Ravana who is super ready to go right from minute 1. So I think Genesis might have caught Rival a little bit off guard.
Genesis, I think, also recognizing the fact that Predators with that teleport relic going to be significantly easier to punish than trying to approach elsewhere on the map, because I think we all know a 1v1 battle in the jungle between an AO and a Ravana probably not going to pan out too well for that AO, especially prior to that level 5 without even having the execute available.
Exactly. So Genesis avoids that, avoids the bad matchup in Long, where they'd already given up a kill courtesy of Tiger, and instead went towards a place on the map where they could have some strength. In what is a decent matchup, I'd say, for Gnome, pre-5. Now that Predators has that horse, we might see a little bit less of that. And to be fair, it's within Predators' wheelhouse to be aggressive, to put himself out of position and take fights. My man will fight anyone, anytime. So, yeah, I think Hyve are right to come over there to look for action.
And it's the right mindset for a Guan Yu, but you do have to factor in that as a Guan Yu, you don't want to let yourself fall too far behind, so there probably will be a little bit of reservation now from Predators after having been ganked already by an AO, and that's prior to Genesis even being level 5.
Right.
So you just have to anticipate that there's going to be some return visits here, and DineOhSaw could be in some trouble.
And here's some value from this Agni. Tom was liking on the desk. DineOhSaw level 3 is quite low. An execute threshold, but makes it out via a cleanse. There's the epic uppercut from Tiger to slow down the chase, but Fly flickers in, finds one more root from Rapio, and the abduct as well. A double for 60-meter Fly in the middle lane.
And look, we ask it all the time. Is it worth for supports to pick up purification beads as that first relic? And I'm here to tell you, yes, every single time. If there's only one feature of an execute, then I think it's perfectly redeemable, especially for the Khepri of all gods, because you have that Scarab's Blessing that you can utilize after the fact. And the beads, I don't think that Genesis was even expecting that.
That's a great point. In this context, right, as Gnome finds what amounts to a solo kill up against Predators and is taunting, perhaps expecting his death to come. Either way, at least make him work for it, but Rapio is able to clean it up. But I think in this composition, when you're a Khepri into an Ares and an Ao Kuang, two forms of CC that if you can immune, really turn the fight around, plus you have the cleanse, I think in this exact situation, I'm on board with picking up this beads. Plus, DineOhSaw's been a pillar of support on console. I trust his decision-making.
And it was also just the immediate punishment against Hyve Central for having extended a little bit past that halfway mark in the mid lane. Normally, that's a pretty hard gank kill opportunity to come by, but Fly just took full advantage of the fact that Genesis had to go so far in to look for that execute in the first place.
Right.
So I really like that Rival are still trying to be proactive despite not having been the initial initiators.
That's a good point. It's not even so much about denying the kill as it is denying the Ao Kuang that escape route, right? That adds so much extra value onto it where you can't reposition by moving up to the sky and landing the SS Quanger if this is indeed the Admiral Kuang skin. I haven't gotten a great look at him just yet.
See, here's the thing. If he doesn't, he's not using the skin.
Not using it, right,
That's why
yeah.
the execute didn't go off. If you use the Emerald Quanger skin, then you're guaranteed your execute to work through those beats.
That's exactly
I'll take
right.
my word for that.
Pay to win. That's right. Get in there and enjoy that extra skin value. So Hotaru catches the hands from Davey on the Chernobog. He might even get the back. DineOhSaw is on his way, sniffing this one out. Luckily, so is Tiger over to stop it. So I think Hotaru will survive. That's just a back delay. There might even be some turnaround potential as the Stinger committed early. I believe Abduct has already come out. But here's the backup as Living Nightmare from Davey closes the gap, forces Tiger into the epic uppercut, but he's still rooted. Damage still coming through, but the body blocks are not enough. Tiger makes his way out.
Not enough burst just yet. Plus that Crystallized Curse's Vicious Barrage. A little bit off the mark there for Davey. Had he actually caught up Hotaru in that Crystallized Curse's route, then definitely see another kill happening from that dual lane. But Tiger probably counting his lucky stars that it's just too early in the game for him to get bursted down in front of his T2 tower.
Predators and Gnome battling yet again. Remember, Gnome already has one kill in this lane that he earned the hard way to his name. Immediately paid for it, though, off a gank from Rapio. So clearly both of them willing to fight.
And look, I don't want to take away from Gnome getting that kill in solo, because it was a pretty impressive solo kill to come through from the air. He shows that he's got consistency with connecting those shackles into the searing flesh, but to stand in place for the taunt, I'm not too certain about that one, Fitch. I think that there was a possibility for Gnome to get away there, but maybe just getting a little too caught up in that instance. Now Predator's looking for revenge.
Might not be able to find the stun if you CC during it, but just has the damage. Predators can't make it back out of range. I think he would have died either way, but still ends up trading his life out 1-for-1 thanks to the tower.
They're just soloing each other. In my mind, this is 2-1 Gnome now.
Yeah. That's how, and this is also, I do also think solo kills against Predators are slightly devalued because Predators takes bad fights all the time, because he just takes all fights all the time, and that's part of his ethos. There are tons of times where he's fighting 4 people out of view of the camera while the rest of his team takes objectives. So you take the 90% good with Predators with some of the 10% bad where they're bad fights.
Plus, I don't think you can really go wrong with the Guan Yu staying this toe-to-toe with the Ares, just because of the fact that at least if Gnome is having to expend the no escape underneath his tower, it means that he's not looking to rotate into mid or possibly even look to rotate to duo super early on to try and aggress into those carries prior to Rival really having a decent response set in place.
Taco, let's talk about some of the potential of these comps. In the late game, you've got an Kuang and a Muzen Cobb being set up by an Ares Kumbhakarna. Even Agni damage and setup is there too. I feel like Hyve Central actually have a pretty decent composition with the execute into the Khepri, Scarab's Blessing. Are you with me on that read, or you think that Rival's right there with him?
Composition-wise, I think Hyve should win this if it goes to that late game portion. But on the other hand, I'm looking at Rival, a team with as much experience as these guys, Finch. It's always hard to overcome, even if you have the right tools in place to get that message across. It's still not going to be an easy battle by any means, because it does really just come down to execution in my mind for Hyve and how well they can actually sync their kits together. Because I don't want to see a constant dump of every single ability into a tank, or DineOhSaw or Predators, for example. I think that it needs to be a healthy balance between Gnome and Tiger kind of harassing the front line well enough that Genesis and Waldrom can kind of utilize that range from the Agni and the burst from the AO to really clean up those kills.
Right. Like, the way I'm describing it is a line where they make it to a point where their teams are even and they're kind of on neutral ground around the FG. Then I'd rather have Hyve Central's draft, I think, going into that situation. But that's the question. Are they going to get to that point, or is Rival going to kind of manufacture an early lead? They're already up a little under 2,000 gold here right now, and that could be where where this competition never gets to that point where I think it's strong. So it's about being able to farm better than them here in this laning phase, earning that spot later on where your draft can kind of work well.
I'll tell you what, though, we will get our best insight whenever these two teams actually take up their battles around these objectives. I'm thinking mostly the Gold Fury is where a lot of the action is going to be taking place between these two teams whenever these laning phases start to kind of dissipate and they start moving in towards that Fury pit. I'd have to imagine that Rival would have a pretty steep advantage just because of this Merlin Chernobog. That is so much objective shred, but Waldrom has the secure that I think gives Hyve a pretty reasonable bounce back opportunity.
Pretty reasonable chance to come in and steal. Waldrom and Genesis both going with this Bancroft second item. On the Kuang, no problem, but here for the Agni, I am a little bit surprised by it. We might have to wait to talk about it, though, as Rival are burning the Gold Fury. And this is something that Hyve have to keep in their minds, man. Merlin Chernobog will shred the Gold Fury if you let them.
Was that even 10 seconds?
No.
After the fact, a surrender. Already, Hyve know it, too, because this is what console teams are so concerned of whenever they play against Rival. Rival are just so good at taking advantage of those little lapses. And if you give them even 10 seconds, they're going to take full advantage of it. Pyromancer is next on the menu, and Rival's going to get that one too.
They absolutely did, but at least this time there could be a fight after Tiger looks for the root. But Genesis and the rest of Hyve Central's positioning tell me they might be done with this for now. This is more of a check in the jungle for perhaps a lazy back. Probably not going to catch out a Khepri in that position. But no, they're wrapping around the mid-Phoenix Tier 1. They absolutely do want to try and grab DineOhSaw here, and they are able to clean up the kill. He holds on to the Scarab's Blessing, accepts his fate. Now Rapio might be in a spot of trouble too, as he's been mezzed, but the aggression falls away.
But even if you reflect back entirely, we'll hold that thought though. Davey actually getting aggressive, gonna blow up Genesis. This failed not. The crits are just too powerful. Hotaru gonna join his teammate back at the fountain. But 2 picks off of 1 living nightmare, that is worth the trade every single day of the week.
It absolutely is. I mean, it was a support in the end that they end up losing, and then all of a sudden, Davey on the Chernobog comes in and finds 2, Genesis and Hotaru taking a seat, and you hit the nail on the head, man. This fail not pickup, it's such a power spike for these long lane hunters nowadays when they're able to grab fail not. It's so much power right out of the gate, and I know it was brought down from 25 to 20% crit chance. That's still a ton, too.
The 20% cooldown's all the same though, as well as that 45 power, Finch, and Chernobog already being, I think, one of the harder hitting hunters, especially through that Vicious Barrage where you get so much more attack speed on top of it. I can understand entirely why Genesis just gets blown up before he even has a chance to react, but even looking back, DineOhSaw dying, technically he dies, but that's after Rival have taken a Gold Fury. That's after Rival took the Pyromancer.
Right. Certainly a good trade, as is this kill onto Tiger that Rival will be getting. I don't know why he's defending there. That Tier 1 didn't have much chance of surviving. Rapio punishes Waldrom as well, and suddenly the wheels are starting to come off the cart as Hyve Central can't stabilize. Fly and the rest of the team have grouped it out. It's Hotaru who's making his way towards the machine that's been chewing through the composition. Fly gets his 3rd of the game, and the Tier 2 tower will be soon to follow suit. And Gnome, I don't know about this push here he's making either. Rapio is nearby as well. I know they want to defend the Tier 2 tower. Has the no escape onto 3, but DineOhSaw with the Scarab's blessing brings the pain. Davey finds 1 more.
I'm just surprised that Gnome would run straight into that. Like, my man's was battle ready, and it was a one by one. That is exactly how Hyve Central just fed themselves to the machine, and Rival more than happy to take their lives along with that T2 tower. This is such an explosive map burst across the board now for Rival to just significantly escalate what wasn't even a lead before.
And this is what we were just talking about not even 4 minutes ago, right? Was how can Hyve Central get to that late game portion on even footing so their composition can take over? Well, it's knowing when the power spikes from Rival are. We talked about the fail not, this ethereal staff in the middle lane for Fly. Fighting into those power spikes, exactly how you put yourself not on even footing for your composition to take over.
The grouping now from Rival as well. No one from Hyve really in position to do anything about it. In fact, this could be a pre-16 minute Fire Giant, Finch. Genesis is going to be the first one to have a chance, but looks over. I don't even think he realizes it.
No, this Fire Giant is done. Rival shred it as if it's not even the biggest objective on the map. All 5 members on the right side. I imagine they'll want some towers. But no, it looks like Davey and the rest of the squad taking the backs here. They've got plenty of gold to spend after all those Tier 2s they just got. Let's grab some more power spikes like Executioner and Blackthorn Hammer, by the way.
This is about to get ugly, Finch. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Davey going to use that Living Nightmare to try and catch up to Hotaru, but not fast enough just yet. That Hyve movement speed going to get that Almus and Cobb out of danger for now. But again, kind of reiterating on the fact that Rival just spent a buttload of gold, and they're about to get even more of it. Oni Fury due to respawn any second. And even without any anti-heal online, Rival just don't need to worry about that sustain out of the AO and Agni.
Gnome goes with the no escape, but it's CC immune by both of these ultimates. No way that he escapes, ironically, from that when Gnome goes down. And now it's the sustain from the Guan Yu that's become a problem on the other side as Rival keeps topped up and continues to push into the Tier 2 tower. Genesis, Tiger, and Waldrom with few options to slow down this assault. The Agni bombs are good, but nowhere near good enough. That's the end of this structure.
It's not even like anybody's taking damage through these Predator heals, and this is now beginning to kind of careen out of control here for Hyve.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as this Oni Fury gets taken, because it will be taken by Rival, there is nothing Hyve can do about it, even if they wanted to. The objectives are just gone so fast, I don't even think Hyve have time to rotate in.
Yeah, comms around Hyve right now are like, oh, I think they might be global audio cue comes through. Yeah, they were doing it, turns out. Gotcha. Guess they got that.
I like this, though, from Genesis. This is probably the best possible response, but he's only level 13. He's just not far enough along to solo this Pyromancer. It is pretty common for AOs to look for the Gold Furies and Pyromancers in the solo potential, but Not when you're level 13 and hasn't even had a chance to finish off the Spirit Desolation. Looks as though Genesis and Waldrom have very similar build pathways, although I do want to add here, I'm not against the Bancrofts for Agni. I know you brought it up earlier, Finch,
Sure.
and had some concerns about how well this was actually going to work out for the Agni. I think that Waldrom was just looking for an immediate power spike. My problem is if you're going to go for such an aggressive build pathway like the Bancrofts, you need to actually be aggressive at the start
Right.
to really get the utility out of that item investment.
I like that you pointed out they had similar builds, though. Just can't wear the same kicks as your boy. That's always awkward, so they decide to go with a different look as Gnome melts underneath the pressure from Fly. Tiger abducted back in the middle of looking for damage, and he's in trouble as well. Rapio stomps Waldrom, and Tiger, we'll see you later. Next to join him is going to be Genesis and Taco. That's just it right here and now. Hotaru can't stop this by himself. 4 down for Hyve Central, and Rival take this one with 19 minutes on the clock. That was dominance.
Oh man, it's just a Merlin on the Titan, Finch. I don't even know what really more else there is to say. Fly just kind of doing it all here along with the entirety of Rival. I mean, this was really just a collective team effort to kind of beat down Hyve Central, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't pick one matchup in this one where I think that things went wrong. If I had to pick a timing, it would be the Gold Fury into Pyromancer, where I think they really had issues, where you have to be a little bit more aware of when you're taking your backs, of when you're getting forced out of lane, and that someone's there to check them, because if they're alone, they're going to burn through those objectives.
That first Gold Fury takeaway was just everything for Rival. I mean, from that point forward, it was just entirely purple.
Exactly. They turned that then into the fight where they found 4 individual picks, and yeah, as you said, the game was over. So dominance from Team Rival again, perhaps to be expected. We'll see if Hyve Central can make the bounce back.
Respawn, the official gaming share of the SMITE Console League.
Great job there so far. All the team coming out to play here, and Rival are able to take the win. Anatoly sitting next to me as we get ready to break this one down. And something that I really thought was really fun about this Rival team, once upon a time, they had a different roster, and I was watching them, and I used to say, you know what's fun about watching this team, Tully? You say what?
What?
Watching them kind of everybody do their thing. They kind of like Voltron together and do it as a unit.
Yeah.
I see that today here.
That's kind of what they did against Gnome, kind of ganking him 2v1 several times, taking a shot at the former Rival member, still rocking the clan tag.
Yeah. He should probably change that. DineOhSaw, Davey, Fly, Rapio, and Predators, though. Don't need to change nothing. Everything looking good. Look at that. 4 players over 600 GPM. Again, GPM is a stat that comes through every now and then. Doesn't always need to be referenced. But when the entire team outside of the support is above 600, you were caking it.
That's right. Rival doing a great job, not only leaning on the solo lane, but on the duo side. That's where the first blood actually did occur. Davey getting the first blood bounty there into the Gold Fury eventually. It was very out of control quickly, I would say, where Hyve Central got caught in multiple instances. Gnome showing off a little bit in that solo lane, taunting until finally getting ganked by Rapio. I like that also draft coming through from Rival with the Guan Yu and this Ravana. Neither one of them could be getting pulled from that no escape, and they took full value from it.
Definitely was a nice look there for the, I have something in my eye, and
Oh, no.
this is terrible. Maybe Hive Mind did as well, because they couldn't really seem to land their shots either. Sorry, just calling it. But at the end of the day, Rival certainly could find their stuff, and this was really just a fantastic look for them as they were able to move pretty fluidly through the game. Let's fluidly move to P's and B's. Rival again with the first selection. They went with the Chernobog last time around. I'm fine with that. What was it? 5 kills in total for the Chernobog?
Something like that. I think Fly also had a great game on the Merlin, going something like 4-0-6. We saw Rapio on the Ravana going 6-0-5. Great performance from the Ravana jungle from the early game translating into this mid game. The synergy there it felt really cohesive between Rapio and the rest of his team. It wasn't just Rapio and Predators as it normally is.
And that's Rapio, man. Rapio was one of the first names to know in the console scene ever. And now as things continue to go forward, he's still one of the names to know. I think in the middle, there was kind of a dip down, but Rapio kind of returning to his previous form, I feel.
Yeah, since Season 5, Rapio has looked like a totally ascended player, because in Season 4, like Valencia and prior to that, it was always a struggle from Rapio's performances where he would be hot or cold, but then I think since Season 5, something just seemed to be clicking.
Well, first pick on Hive Mind isn't clicking anything. There's a thought process about, maybe giving away some bans so that the top picks can be more accessible. If there are 3 top selected characters, your first pick can only get 1, we can get 2. Is that the mentality here from Hive Mind, or are they literally away from control?
No, I don't think they're away from control. I like that. AFC. But you're going to get Erlang Shen and probably Set, if I were to guess, from Hive.
Okay.
GG. Maybe Kronos if they wanted to lean towards that direction instead. And teams have been doing this in the past where they'll be doing their homework, and instead of passing a ban, they'll kind of like ban away something that gets played about 10 to 30% of the time, so that way they can at least formulate a draft that isn't going to get countered by a specific god.
On the other side, by banning out, let's say, a Wheelish, that I'm interested in
Jumps.
Yeah,
right? Potentially.
So, by not banning anything, am I riding into battle on my brain elephant, saying, you can't counter what you can't see? Am I being the biggest brain man around? Is Hive Mind figuring it? Have they received the blessing of the brain?
If they win, I'll say yes.
That is the most analysis effective. That's the way to do it.
Cover my options. If they win, they win.
Well, after no bans, they pick Puch.
I'm kind of curious what their secondary bans are, because if you're going to ban the first 3, you would think you would just not ban anything.
You just full commit?
Yeah, you just full commit at that point.
Well, once you have your 3 selections, then there's no threat of kind of revealing something with your bans, if there is something to reveal by way of your bans. So if that's going to be the case, then you want to actually ban here, and the Kumbhakarna is going to be the ban.
Looks like it. There could be some more channeling things where Ares is going to be the ban selection now, looking through from Hive, where that Susano and Erlang Shen doesn't want to get crippled. That makes a lot of sense. But looking for some late game presence on this Nike. Something that we haven't normally been seeing very often, I think, in Season 6, despite some of the changes.
Isis and Daji, powerful character. Oh, God. I really want to say, Toli, I really would love to say, you know me, you give me an oddball strat, I'm here for it, I'm ready for the ride. You passed 3 bans in the beginning, I want to say that it was effective. And then I look at Rival's draft and I see Isis, Set, Daji, Chernobog, and Khepri. I mean, Isis and Set are 2 of the best gods in the game. Daji is one of the most picked assassins in the jungle role across multiple SMITE leagues. Chernobog was an MVP of last game, and so was Khepri. I mean, this is the draft from Team Rival.
It's good draft, don't get me wrong, but there's also another good draft on the opposite end where there's a lot of AoE control. You add out Puch and Susano to the mix, you're looking for good things.
We'll see if we find those good things. It's John Finch and Melissa, you can't outrun my bow, Posada.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Anatoly, as Rival and Hive square off for the second match. And I don't know, I find myself coming down very much on the side of you should ban things. Especially things that are Isis and Set and Khepri. I don't know. I can't think of a world where that strategy makes sense.
Let me play devil's advocate.
Go for it. I'd love to hear it.
If you don't ban anything, then everything is open. That's the thought process. There's also the fact of the matter that Hyve could just be looking for the reverse psychology game against Rival.
That's right. We gave you everything you wanted, and you still couldn't win. That's mental damage, now that I think about it.
That's brutal.
That's nuts. If they win this game, and they give them everything
it
they
might
wanted,
be the most alpha move we've ever seen done on console.
That's pretty.
Ever before.
It's
But
pretty
only
legit.
if they win.
Only if they win.
If they lose, they are dumb.
Well, so here's the thing, right? In game number 1, how did Rival win? It was with objective control and no way that Hyve could contest them. Now, is there anyone in the game right now who's better at controlling objectives than Isis? This DineOhSaw is going to be in trouble unless Isis hits a 3-man Spirit Fall. That's a good goddess. I wouldn't want her on the other team. They still managed to find first blood either way as DineOhSaw goes down, but Rapio finds one in return. Rapio falls, though, to Hotaru, and as they actually come away with this fight on top. 3 for 1. Hyve Central. I can't hate.
I'm not saying it's a profit, Finch, but there's something really important about early game rotations after you've just gotten pretty much manhandled, because that's what happened to Hyve in that latter half of the first game. They just got ran at by Rival. Predators, though, gonna show up and shut down Genesis real quick. Not gonna let the Susano get any further ahead of Rapio than what he already might have been. But
you see those pings?
A little bit of anger ping.
Yo, Gnome, you want to let me know your dude's not in a lane?
Tell him how you really feel.
If you could hit us up about that. And here's the thing. That initial fight is a 3-0 cleanly if all the same positioning happens, and that's not Isis. Because no one else can do what she did in that fight, right? It's a 3-0 clean in that same fight.
No one else gets a triple Spirit Ball stun. You're right, Finch. I can't think of many other guys in the game that could do what Isis just accomplished in that choke point, but it is really important for Hyve Central to keep in mind. They mostly got away with that because of how early on in the game it is. If this was an Isis at level 4, the 60-meter fly is tearing that up in the choke point. So it'll be really important for Hyve Central to kind of just be reasonable with their initiations, but I definitely think they had the right idea, just approaching the situation with straight up more members.
Tiger has made his rotation over here with Davey and DineOhSaw, a traditional 2v2 that's happening. So Hotaru actually has the Erlang Shen in the ADC role. Certainly worth noting as Davey takes down Hotaru and manages to make his way back out of there to even the kills up 3-3. And sort of the last thing I'll touch on with the ban thing before we dissect, I guess, Hotaru playing the Erlang Shen in the long lane is that at the very least, I think you could ban away like comfort picks from Rival, even if you don't want to ban meta stuff, right? And that could still be strong as Fly avoids the game.
Rapio, though, still going to give chase as Davey comes crashing in from that living nightmare. Crystallized Curses, Vicious Barrage. We know the combo all too well. Rapio going to hope that these archers won't be able to bring him down, and unfortunately there for Waldrom, he'll just have to watch as Rival get out clean.
Very clean rotation there from Rival. It actually starts with them being the ones in duress, but they turn the situation around off the back of Davey coming over. And it's just such a strong gank when Living Nightmare gets you into the big sort of AoE route that's so hard to get away from. Just a huge rotation there from him. I do also want to point out Rapio using an excellent dodgy skin. That VXG is sick.
It is pretty dope. But I want to touch more on this Erlang in the ADC position. And Finch, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a pretty big proponent of flex picks in the dual lane myself.
You've been really lauding assassins over there, yeah.
It is only a matter of time, I think, before we start seeing a little bit more warriors and assassins, if teams want to take that risk, because it is a pretty steep risk versus reward scenario. My gripe with the Erlang in this matchup is Hotaru just didn't even go for the blessing. He's setting himself up for a steep disadvantage against this Chernobog, and even if you're able to find an early pick with the Ninja Tabai Rush, you are just so restricted in terms of mana. It's really hard to try and spam poke, especially into the likes of a Chernobog who can just evade so much of that pressure with the Into Darkness.
That's a great point. Once he gets into the wall and gets all that time that he buys and repositioning, but Rapio wants a little bit more here, up onto the Pala, but just out of range is Hotaru. That's an excellent read from him as they avoid getting pulled back in by the change. Rapio Trickster Spirits to safety to get away from Tiger and avoids that gank, but as you said, this Erlang Shen could certainly have some trouble, you know, getting full Erlang Shen value over here with this start.
Especially since Hotaru was already brought down kind of early on. I mean, he had a great early rotation at level 2 into the left mid Harpies to help punish against rival, or just look for early gank opportunities. Can't really call it much of a punish at level 2, but I just don't really see that translating super well into this duo lane. I mean, he's stale with Davey. There's no real advantage.
And so now Fly is about to show us why Isis is very good. It's because in this situation, it's very, very difficult to take away that Gold Fury, even when it's contested, when it's not a steal or anything like that. And I mean, and Tiger did everything he could there in that spot. Certainly not poorly played, it's just circle of protection.
Tiger should probably be happy that Rival decided not to kill him.
Right.
Because Rival could have very easily killed that Nike, in my mind, Finch. Maybe a little bit too wrapped up in the thought of what happens after killing Tiger. Genesis and Waldrom having been so nearby, probably would have been able to find at least one return pick in exchange. But when the Gold Fury is already sieged, I don't think Rival really had that much to lose in that circumstance. But I do respect their player discipline. I mean, you have to remember, this is one of our more seasoned rosters in the league.
Exactly. So good job from Rival, understanding that they'd already gotten plenty there by taking the Gold Fury. No need to risk any further on the back end of that. I do want to say, though, yet again, I think Hyve Central don't have a bad draft. It's just that I think they've allowed Rival to get too good of one in response. But some areas where I think this draft really can work for them is, yet again, if they're able to group up as 5, and if you have Empty the Crypt and Fleeting Breath out there to try and stop Rival from doing the healing they want to do, if you have Tiger slowing everyone inside of all that damage and Genesis worming his way to the back line, they've got a pretty good team fight. It's just, do they get there?
The draft is sick.
Yeah.
I honestly love this Hyve Central draft, but my issue is the execution, Finch, and I'm just not sold on Hyve being a team that's well coordinated enough to actually pull this one off, as Gnome going to get forced out of that mounted cavalry from Predators. Kingslayer having not even been utilized yet. Genesis, though, wrapping around the backside, going to win side from Predators. He'll take a tower shot for the process, but now that Kingslayer is in action, and Typhoon might get the job done.
Predators turns it around and finds one. Genesis, RIP, as is Gnome, the 2-for-1, as Predators baits him in. Rapio, when it rains, it pours, as he takes down Hotaru on the left side as well. Big play for Predators, man. And that's the high variance I talk about with Predators sometimes. Way more consistent than not. 90% you get that guy, but sometimes you get the guy who gets ganked, but that's a huge play from him.
Right about now, Genesis is wishing that he might have finished off that Mace Tree item into the Brawlers first before trying to pay Predators a visit, but Tiger could be in some trouble of his own. Rapio still trying to finish it off, has the Scare's Blessing procced, but only for a couple seconds longer. Waldrom will find a return kill, and so will Genesis, also punishing Rapio for having stayed just a little bit too long. So kills across the board for both of these teams, but Rival is still coming out on top in my mind, Finch.
I agree, and that could have been much cleaner from Rival. Rapio, does need to be up there by purple buff on the back end of that play. And then Gnome dying in middle lane is fine to the op watch. That gets punished by Predators. So largely I agree, that's still good for Rival on that one. But I just love the way DineOhSaw played that. I'm going to turn this into the Gas DineOhSaw set because he's a player that I like a lot here on the box. But the way that he held tower aggro, even with the ultimate there on Rapio, so that he could go further forward and continue to pressure out for the kill, I think that was well played.
Wisely played, at least. Good decision making from DineOhSaw. Fly, on the other hand, probably having a little bit of trouble because this Outwash, I think, is a really strong response to all of these ISIS selection choices that we've been seeing as of late.
Agreed.
Rapio, though, looking to go in one more time against Tiger. Nike can leap forward, but not finding the damage that he needs just yet.
Davey comes right back down as now he has backup from DineOhSaw. They do find the route into the Abduct and a ton of free autos from Davey into the Rising Dawn. I love the turtle form, though, to find the knockup and the kill. Hotaru turns it around in the 2v1 and blinks for the escape. Hello. But now Hotaru being chased down by Rapio. Trickster Spirit spells his end. Still a good play, though.
A short-lived victory, though, for Hotaru. Made all the right calls, just couldn't actually create enough space away from this Daji. Genesis might be in some trouble himself if he's not careful. Fly, though, just trying to disengage from Waldron. He's going to empty the crypts, but not able to finish off the pick.
DineOhSaw working together alongside Rapio. They find the kill and left. The Fly does eventually end up falling to Waldrom, getting a bit too greedy
Poor Doug, man.
in the middle lane. It's everywhere, right? How
It's
do you follow
everywhere
it?
right now. There's just so much pressure coming through from Rival across the map, and this is exactly like what we saw from Rival in Game 1, right around the same time period as well. They kind of just collect their farm, reach that mid-game peak stride, and then look to go in. Fly, on the other hand, though, I mean, this is where Hyve need to be looking to just fully buckle down on Punish, because Waldrom's got a pretty steep advantage over Fly now. A 2-level lead over this Isis, and the only lead, like you just mentioned, Finch. And this Alposh is exactly who Hyve need to try and be playing everything through right now, because it could be the ultimate shutdown factor for Rival.
That's right, as everything else is bad. Predators is ahead over Gnome, 2 levels for Rapio over Genesis. DineOhSaw is ahead of Tiger in their matchup as well. Davey even with Hotaru, which I still classify as a slight win for Team Rivals. Spirit Ball connects. They gotta do what they can to keep Fly here using the circle of protection in mid, but Predators makes the rotation and Waldrom falls again. Hotaru does stop the Gold Fury from going down in favor of Rival on the left-hand side. 9 turns Blessing is out, so there will be a heal on the back end of this to keep him alive. He's rooted. DineOhSaw right there to keep looking for the punish. Even Rapio making the rotation, but too far away. Hotaru might be out, but another root into another abduct, and the Erlang Shen ends up falling. Tiger in some trouble now as Predators rotates over to the left-hand side, and this is bad news when Predators is 6-0-0 on the set out in front. Hyve Central's gonna struggle.
Predators is just doing whatever the hell he wants to. I don't even know where Gnome has been at for the start of this set, but this is exactly what a set wants to do. Just so much disruption for Hyve that those moments of aggression that we were just talking about, looking to play through Waldrom, what does Predators do? Immediately rotates into the mid lane to alleviate that pressure from Fly and just kills Waldrom outright. Not a whole lot that Outbush can do when a set just shows up in your lane 2 to 3 levels ahead of you.
And so let's say that Hyve are on the brain throne here, right, with those first 3 bans, and or first 3 passes, and they're like, you're going to take Isis, we're going to take Outbush, we're confident in that matchup. I mean, shouldn't they have taken Set? I mean, who were the first 2? It was Erlang, Shen, and Susano, I think, were the first 2 picks that they had coming in here. And because Rival get both the Isis and the Set, you got to worry about one or the other, and they couldn't handle both this time as Genesis gets decimated by Rapio.
Genesis, I think, hoping that Tiger is going to be able to find the damage to actually kill Rapio, but the Scarab is Blessing just in time. In fact, Rapio still looking to engage. Gnome's going to be off the mark, though, with the Guan dash.
And he's standing in place on the back end, getting pinged as well. They know that that's where that fight was lost, as Hotaru won't even make it to the heal. Predator's now unstoppable with 7 in a row, and he wants Waldrom as well, leaving few options for escape for the Upwash. Has to empty the crypts, but Predators finds himself yet another, a double kill for him. Oh, maybe a triple.
Thought there would be some vengeance here if Tiger's able to close it out, but just going to get run down by a level 16 set instead. Divine now for Predators. Finch, this is just getting ugly.
It certainly is, right? With similar timing to what we saw in Game 1, but in different fashion. In Game 1, it was this objective control that led them into a series of waterfall kills and then eventually taking structures. In this game, though, Rival are just doing it off the back of Predators being a beast.
Tiger is just so far behind at this point, though, Finch. I mean, he hasn't even hit the double digits just yet, and Rival, they're not leaving much farm on the map for this Nike to catch up with either. Predators, just the ultimate disrespect right now, harassing Hotaru at his own back Harpies.
Gnome in some trouble as well, but a nice 3-man pull into the damage on the cavalry charge. Gnome finds a 2-man stun. Genesis with the Typhoon does clean up DineOhSaw, but they both get pulled back in by Rapio off the Palau. Davey, quite low, makes it into the wall, and that's all the time that Rapio needs to find a double kill and take down Gnome 2 for 1 in favor of Rival yet again.
Meanwhile, Predators still trying to chase down Hotaru.
Hello.
Sandclone, teleport is going to be good. Living Nightmare not even needed, but might still be a follow-up from Davey just to try and run down Tiger in the process. Like, you're going to create a little bit of a leap away, but it's only temporary. It doesn't feel like anybody can actually get away from Predators right now.
That's an 8-level disparity there, by the way, between those 2 players.
Oh no, Tiger. Why'd you go back in?
Well, he thought he had that one, and it looks like he will at least survive, as Predators is going to continue the dive attempt. The knockup buys Tiger some much-needed time, as well as the Sentinel Zeus, so Predators couldn't completely get the kill, but all the while, Rival was getting the Pyrite.
Oh, Tiger's playing with Catastrophe right now.
Oh, Genesis.
That Nike ultimate just wore off. The minions thought that they were going to bring out Tiger in the process. Genesis, though, that's still 5-level difference.
This is a big bounty, though. If Genesis can get it shut down onto an 11-0 Predators, I think he does need to be careful where he's giving that bounty away, but obviously not enough of a problem to really slow down Rival. Rapio gets chunked, but Scarab's Blessing is right there from DineOhSaw, so Gnome gets up on the horse, but not going to be enough to stop a powwow.
Powwow shots won't connect to anybody here, and Rapio gonna be able to trickster spirit away to the safety of Davey, who just managed to enter over into this mid lane. And one more time, Rival, pretty strong grouping, but nothing on the map to take. Everything that could be taken, Rival has already controlled. And that next Oni Fury spawn, I'm not even sure that Hyve is gonna be caught up enough to try and contest it. The best they could hope for is that Waldrom might be able to look for the steal, but Waldrom is having enough problems of his own just trying to deal with this set. Predators has been unstoppable. The only reason he dies is because of the fact that he doesn't care enough to back.
I agree. I think Predators made an active decision to stick around a tough spot when he could have easily left, which is fine. No problems there. He's still 11-1-0, has Frostbond and Blackthorn finished. That's why he has all those tinctures health bar. You know what? I don't even dislike this from Hyve. They got to make a Hail Mary at this point. So Fire Giant's the call, and it's already at half HP, but Predators is local. This might even be a quadra in the making as he makes his way in. Hyve Central still taking Fire Giant aggro at this point. Rival strip away the FG, and now all of a sudden they're stuck with low health bars and nothing to show for it. Rapio and Predators both final one up onto the horse from Gnome, but Predators keeps up the chase. Disaster strikes for Hyve.
There's only so far that Gnome can actually run. You can't run away from a set for much longer here, Finch. Genesis, on the other hand, getting chased down by Rapio and Fly, but Gnome able to create at least enough space. He brings, oh, genius. Takes Rival to the Oni Fury, so they give up chasing the Guan Yu because they're like, yeah, we should probably just take the objective instead.
Which is more valuable at this point, clearly. A 60-meter fly, threatening the tier 2 over and right. The Oni Fury goes down tier 2 in mid, likely to be under siege here next. And Hyve, I mean, they swung for the fences, and the fence swung back. That is probably the game sealed for Rival in the back end of that point.
But I am with you, Finch. I think that that was probably the best possible call that Hyve could have gone for in their current position, because I don't think that they were going to really be able to recover this match otherwise. So sometimes you just got to go big, and sometimes going big leads to really big punish. And that is exactly what Rival did. As soon as they stripped away that Fire Giant, everything was just a full-on collapsed, and now this map, one more time, just going to be all Rival.
And they knew Predators was there too, so likely they were expecting to lose members on the back of that steal, but the Fire Giant on 3 members on the back of that is still a good stall tactic, but because they also lost the objective, I think that's when it became the backbreaker truly for Hyve Central, as Predators continues to be a madman, diving into the Typhoon and into the Empty the Crypts, pulling 2 ults on his own.
Fly, though, still looking to give chase. Silence has connected long enough for Rapio to catch up. Good wind siphon in, though. Is going to buy Waldrom a little bit of time for the moment. Beats to cleanse the powwow pull in also. But Hotaru's got to be careful. Rapio's relatively deep with no backup anytime soon. That is until Predator shows up in mid lane.
And that's all the backup you could want. Suddenly it's Hyve that are the ones turning tail. There is still a tier 2 tower in the long lane that they're going to let Fly handle alongside his wave, while the rest of the squad pushes up minions in mid.
Oh, what's up, Davey?
And yeah, check out Davey and right. He's got a minion wave and a Phoenix all to himself. Someone's got to come say hello. It'll be Hotaru, his lane opponent, that shows up, but down 3 levels. He'll rethink the matchup. Now, all of a sudden, there's a Davey making his way towards left. He goes back towards Tiger near the fountain, while the rest of the squad gets the left Phoenix. Frenzy popped as well, and that is a Firebird collected by Rival.
That 854 Spirit Ball, no, might not even get to finish the Cavalry charge before going down. No does manage to wiggle back into his fountain, but Circle of Protection is going to blow up Hotaru the second he tries to initiate. And Finch, this is looking like a done deal here for Rival.
It is done like dinner. Titan at half HP. 3 members still up for Hyve to try and make the defense, but Rival make their way into the Titan room proper now, release all the damage, and Hyve Central drop Rival 2-0.
And you know, Finch, normally I think there might be a little bit more analysis at the end here, but I think
Sure.
it all kind of just factors back to one very important starting point. Just take advantage of your bans.
I agree. Set
Do
and
not have
Isis
to
are
pass
good.
all three.
Yeah, those are good gods.
You can still look for the Erlang. You can still look for the Alposh if you're expecting the Isis, but maybe ban Khepri and set.
Agreed, and I think that that's where the strategy does appear to have gone off the rails. Predators with 22,000 damage, 10k more than anyone on the side of Hyve Central, 10k more than I think anyone on his own squad. Predators was a true nightmare in this game on that set. As you mentioned, the Khepri was also a big problem from DineOhSaw as well.
Yeah, Waldrom tried everything in his power to bring that one back to life there, but
Yeah.
it was just too overwhelming. Every single lane, essentially, aside from that mid lane, but I'm counting jungle as a lane at this point. It was just way too much rival dominance.
I'm right there with you. Waldrom, for what it's worth, I think won the matchup, just was not anywhere near enough for them to win the game. So that will do it in Rival's favor, but we have plenty more console coming your way. It'll be North America on the other side of this break.